Good morning, Miss. Good morning, classmates. Our topic for today is all about scoring rubrics. So now, what is scoring rubrics? A rubric is a scale used to assess student performance using task-specific criteria with appropriate level of performance. Dili naman jud na bag-o sa atua or familiar naman jud ta kung unsa ng scoring rubrics, no. Ang scoring rubrics kay same ra na sila sa criteria. Mao ni siya ang gamiton sa pag-measure sa students performances or any activity sa students. Ang difference between criteria and scoring rubrics is ang criteria specific siya, such as creativity, neatness, etc. Whereas ang scoring rubrics kay na siya criteria but with level of performance ang each criteria sa scoring rubrics. Let's take a look for the example here. So, mao ni siya ang example or noun sa scoring rubrics. The rubric covers the actual performance of a task in an English class. So, as you can see sa left upper part na ay word na criteria. Then, ubos ana niya are the basis or example of a criteria. Basahon nato. Number of appropriate hand gestures, appropriate facial expression, voice inflection, and last is the proper ambience, true feelings, and the voice. So, sa maobserbahan ninyo, sa criteria na part kay specific o understandable jud siya, no? So, sa kilid anang criteria na ay number 1, 2, and 3, no? So, ang 3 ana is the highest score or ratings. Then, sunod ang 2 points. Ang below nga rating is the 1 point. Mao na sila ang gitawag og performance rating. Then, kanang below ana niya is the performance descriptors. Through performance descriptors sa scoring rubrics kay anha mag-base ang teacher or evaluator sa ilang ihatag na ratings. Like for example sa group 1 or first presenter kay nakakuha sila og 3 points sa number of appropriate hand gestures. It's because na-complete man sa group 1 ang 10 to 12 ka hand gestures based sa ilang performance. So, ang pangutana, when man ihatag ang scoring rubrics? Of course, ihatag ang scoring rubrics before ang performance para mag-guide or makabalo ang kada group kung unsay dapat nilang i-achieved or outcome sa ilahang performance. Nasabtan ra ba? Okay, very good. Let's now proceed to the descriptors. The following are the functions of descriptors. First, descriptors spells out what is expected of students at each level of performance for each criterion. Second, it tells students more precisely what performance looks like at each level and how their work will be distinguished from the work of others for each criterion. Third, it will also help the teachers in effectively assessing students' work. So, in general, ang function DI sa descriptors is to give students an idea or guide on what is expected on their performances and how they'll be graded in accordance of each criterion given. Also, through descriptors of the scoring rubrics, makahatag pod og idea sa students kung unsay itsura or makita sa ilahang i-perform, and through descriptors sad kay ari mahibaw-an sa students kung ang ilahang performance kay much better ba sa laing group, kung nakamit ra ba sila sa group sa level performance, o through descriptors sad kay is makatabang pud ni sa teacher para mag-guide or ma-assess ang teacher kung unsaon niya pag-grade or hatag og ratings ang performance or work sa iyahang mga estudyante. So, the descriptors in this example is found in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th column or in color brown. Mao na siya ang examples sa description or mao na siya ang noun sa descriptors. 1 to 4 gestures kay 1 point. Ang 5 to 9 gestures kay 2 points. Ang 10 to 12 gestures kay mao na siya ang 3 points. Ang no apparent inappropriate facial expression kay 3 points, so on and so forth. Okay, so these are the reasons why a rubric should include levels of performance. First is for clearer expectations. So, sa clear expectations, kinahanglan na ang students kay makabalo on what is expected sa ilang performance. And kinahanglan na ang teachers kay makabalo or kabalo kung unsay tan-awon na basis in giving ratings sa performance sa iyang mga students. Second is more consistent and objective assessment. Sa diri nga reasons kay ang levels of performance permit or nagtugot sa teachers to more consistently and objectively evaluate students' work. And lastly, we have better feedback. So by identifying the levels of performance kay mag-allow sa teachers na muhatag og more detailed feedback to students, especially with their performances. So now, let's proceed with product-oriented performance-based assessment. Product-oriented assessment is an assessment in which focused more on the final product rather than on the actual performance in making the product. Its concern is purely on the product and root on the process, the outcome or the performance and the achievement of the students. It's focused on evaluating the result or outcome of a process. So, ang product-oriented performance-based assessment kay usa ka assessment nga mas nakafocus gani siya sa final product kaysa sa actual nga performance sa paghimuan ang product. Ang gibasihan sa pag-evaluate kay ang result or ang final outcome na gamit kay ang scoring rubrics. So, for example, ang teacher kay nagpahimo or gipahimo ang mga students og project or naa sila nagpa-present ang teacher og role play. So, ang i-grade ra sa teacher based sa ratings na gihatag niya nga scoring rubrics kay ang final product ra or ang katong role play na gi-present sa mga students. So, katong mga days or katong mga process nga gibuhat sa mga students, like katong mga practice nila is wala to labot sa pag-grade sa teacher. So to understand more about scoring rubrics and product-oriented performance, let's hear from the next reporter.
So good morning once again everyone. So I am the next reporter. So our topics today is all about learning competencies. So what is learning competencies? So learning competencies associated with products or outputs are linked with an assessment with the levels of performance as shown in the product. So there are 3 levels of performance which is no voice or the beginner's level. So next is the skill level and the last is expert level. So let's find out the meaning of the 3 level. So learning competencies is divided into 3 levels. So the first, the second, and the third level. So the first level is the novice or beginner's level. So the meaning is the finished product or project illustrate the minimum expected or function. For the skill level, the finished product or project contains additional part and function on top of the minimum requirements, which is to 10. So the expert level is the finished product or a project contains the basic minimum parts and functions have additional features on the top of the minimum. So as you can observe sa na every level no kay nagkasaka. So parehas na nato in every level kay kita magikan mo sa ubos until tamhimong padung sa babaw. Like nang mag-eskwela ta gikan kita sa grade 1 until maabot ta og college until ma-successful ta. Example number 1 is the bulletin board display. So, learning competencies, the bulletin board must have the correct dimension of 3 feet by 4. So, dapat ang imong bulletin board kay naa sa standard, which is the dimension standard is 3 feet by 4. So, the star day made of plywood and properly fastened along the corridor. So be informative. So dapat ang imong bulletin board dapat na yung mga information dito lang sa kay magbutang kag kana ang bulletin board unya. So ang mga suwat nga ay mga information useless ra no. So be pleasing and observe properly colored for aesthetic purpose. So dapat colorful sad parang kanang eye-catching kay sa mga bata no, especially students no. Kanay paregagi sa corridor nga na to. Wow, especially kanang naa sila makita nga especially kana ang ilahang mga projects ibutang adto kanang kinanindutan nga project. So dapat then ang mga bata di ma-proud sa ana nga makita ang ilang project kana sa bulletin board. The last example, which is scrapbook, learning competencies, the scrapbook must have contains pictures and other illustration of main events of the collaboration. So, dapat ang imong scrapbook ay informative gyapon like sa bulletin board na ay ang bulletin board dapat na information. So, ang scrapbook sa nimo dapat kay na ay pictures para nasay matan-aw ang mga estudyante or even kana ang mga teachers para na information makita. So it also contains remarks and caption made by the students for the activities during the collaboration. Then presentable, comprehensive, informative, and pleasing to the readers of the scrapbook. So dapat presentable sad kanang limpyo kana ang may pagkahanay ang mga words, mga wordings nimo, then informative like sa katong bulletin board dapat na yung mga information para nasad kay makuha ngadto especially kanang mangtan-aw or mubasa sa imong scrapbook. Scoring rubrics. So what is scoring rubrics? So scoring rubrics are descriptive scoring schemes that are developed to guide the analysis of the product or processes of students' efforts. So mo na siya ang gamiton kanang as a guide para sa teacher gani para sa paggrado sa mga students based on their performance. What really counts in the final output? Example is the quality, the creativity, the comprehensiveness, accuracy, and aesthetics of the output. So this is the example of analytic rubric bulletin board display. So first is the title, which is 10%, then the labels is 20%, then accuracy 50%, then ang the netness is 20%, and the total of 100%. So from the title na sila score nga 1 to until 3. 3 is the display contains is the title that clearly tells what is showing. So ng number 3 mo na siyang highest. Then for the label, all parts of the display are correctly labeled. So mao na siya ang highest for the labels kada ang number 3. Then for the accuracy, all data are accurately represented in the display. So mao na siya sad ang number 3, which is the highest. Then the netness, the display is very net and well organized kanang limpyo. So mao siya ang highest, which is 3 points. Then and then the total is 10%, 20%, 50%, and 20%, and the total is 100%. So this is the example of holistic rubric. So as you can see in the screen, that is an example of scoring rubric holistic rubric. So when we say rubrics are appropriate when calculating essay, group activities, oral presentation, and other activities which does not require objective answer. Then when the scoring rubrics are used, does not depend on the subject or grade level of the students, rather on the purpose of the assessment.
So, benefits of scoring rubrics. First is they support the examination of the extent to which the specified criteria have been reached. And the second, they provide feedback to students for the improvement of their performance. So basically, scoring rubric is serves as giving feedback to students whether students need to improve or students is student master the skills or understand the topic very well, and also it helps students to test their learning ability and learning capacity. So performance assessment tests students' ability to use skills in a variety of authentic contexts. Short and long-term tasks include such activities are writing, revising, and presenting a report to the class. Second is conducting a week-long science experiment and analyzing the result. And last, working with a team to prepare a position in a classroom debate. So how can teachers influence students' performance? First is performance assessment is a promising method that is achievable in the classroom. In classroom, teachers can use data gathered from performance assessment to guide instruction. Second is performance assessment should interact with instruction that precedes and follows an assessment task. So when using performance assessment, students' performances can be positively influenced by selecting assessment tasks that are clearly aligned or connected to what has been taught, sharing the scoring criteria for the assessment task with students prior to working on the task, providing students with clean statements or standards and or several models of acceptable performances before they attempt a task, encouraging students to complete self-assessments of their performances, and lastly, interpreting students' performances by comparing them to standards that are developmentally appropriate as well as to other students' performance. So, how can I create an authentic performance that features understanding? I will use GRASP to assist in the criterion. J stands for goal or what task do I want the students to achieve, or unsay goal or gusto nimong buhaton as a teacher para ma-achieve sa mga students, or unsay tumong sa activity nga imong ipabuhat. R stands for role or what's the student's role in the task, or unsay buhaton sa mga students sa task nga imong ipabuhat. So A for audience or who is the student's target audience, and S or stands for situation, what's the context and what's the challenges. P stands for performance or what will students create or develop, and S stands for standards or on what criteria will they be judged. Always remember, make the task a real-world problem to solve. So in figure M.04, it is an example of performance task scenario which used grasps, and then it is all about the nutrition example. So the goal is within the scenario is to create an illustrated brochure to teach the second graders about the importance of nutrition for healthful living. And then the rule is you are a teacher of nutrition. The audience is the target audience is a second grade class. The situation is you need to show the difference between a balanced diet and an unhealthy diet. And then the product or performance and purpose is you need to create a brochure that describes healthy versus unhealthy eating and shows at least 2 health problems that can occur as a result of poor eating. And lastly, the standards and criteria for success is that your brochure should contain accurate information and easy for second grades to read and understand. So, any questions, clarifications? Once again, I am Maria Jean Sigara and thank you for listening to our video discussion.